Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing a Central Park case, the Central Park 5, in which I am going to be providing you some psychic insights, what I see around these gentlemen who were falsely accused and wrongly accused and failed by the justice system, and what I see about Linda Fairstein, and give you insights as to what I see coming for her. All of this is so disturbing. Now, there is a Netflix series, for those of you that are not aware, there is a Netflix series based on the actual events, but some people are saying that it didn't follow exactly everything to a T of what occurred, but it kind of, did capture in essence what has happened. For those of you that don't know what Central Park 5 is, this took place in New York City and Central Park, New York. And basically, back in the 80s, there was a lady that was jogging and was sexually assaulted and beaten. And they blamed all 5 of these young kids, because they were kids at the time, for that, and coerced them and forced them into a confession that they were guilty, even though some denied. Up until today, they still deny that they still say that, they told the police that they were not guilty, but the police got 1 or 2 of them to confess to it. And so these young guys served anywhere from 6 to 13 years in prison and were stripped of their youth, and basically their lives were ruined by all of this. This is a classic example of racism. It's a classic example of prejudice within the white community and supremacy of the legal and judicial system. So again, I'm not trying to turn this into a race game, but it is what it is. And I'm not going to be I'm not a YouTuber that's known to sit back and not say exactly what is the truth and what I feel is behind all of this. So Linda Fairstein is this white woman that was the prosecutor that made sure that these gentlemen were put behind bars. And the fact is that there was no DNA evidence linking none of these young men at the time to the crime. However, years later on, a serial rapist confessed to the crime. He confessed to the crime, and through DNA evidence, these men were exonerated. And they were awarded up to $41 million, but ended up getting like $1 million each, which is ridiculous because, money does not fix this. Money does not turn back the hands of time and get back the memories of their families, the family moments that they've lost, the time with their family and their loved ones and their children, etc. So it's like, there's just so much with their friends. And when I say children, well, they were young, at the time, but I'm talking about like children, their friends who were their age, they were all children, and to be accused of this is just so wrong. So why, I guess a lot of people want to know from a psychic insight, what happened. I really get from a psychic perspective when I tune into all of this is that Linda Fairstein is a prosecutor, and just like we saw in Tyler Perry's movie, which I love Tyler Perry because he always does good movies, like with Medea. In one of the movies, I don't know if y'all know the name of it. I don't remember the name, but I remember seeing it several times, and that's pretty bad of me not knowing the name. But there was a black lady that was a prosecutor, and she, padded or had all these charges and had all these cases stacked up to make her look good. You have to understand, this is the 1980s, and a female prosecutor would have been under a lot of scrutiny, a lot of pressure, and it doesn't excuse the fact of what Linda Fairstein did. But I really do get that perhaps she knew that possibly these young men were innocent, but still decided to go ahead and prosecute them and continue with this because of the fact that it would boost her reputation as a top prosecutor. Okay, and in the world of men, and she is a female prosecutor, they're always going to promote, and they're always going to do more for male prosecutors than female prosecutors. I also feel like the New York system, the New York Police Department, they're all responsible at the time. The people that were in that department at that time or precinct are also responsible for this. And there was a lot of disorganization at the time. Crime was on, I feel like it was a point where crime was kind of changing. It was like changing and evolving. And so, the justice system, the police, the prosecutor, the legal courts, they all failed these young men and wrongly accused him, which is false. It was false, and they were wrongly accused and lost a big chunk of their life that they cannot go back. I watched an interview of these gentlemen talking about what they had to endure in prison, and their biggest thing was survival. Because once you're in prison, it's all about surviving and making it. And these men are never going to be the same. I imagine a lot of them, when I tuned into their souls, the majority of them have depression. A lot of them have PTSD. And again, I'm not diagnosing, but this is more or less what I saw from them in the interview. None of them are ever the same. And the money that they were given, they did put it to good use. Many of them did. But, Linda Fairstein, she sits in the board of all these different positions and had a publishing deal or whatever, and she's been dropped by a lot of people. She resigned recently. She's facing a lot of disgrace and a lot of, basically her career is coming down in shambles. And so it should, I don't feel sorry for her one bit. And I'm sorry to even to sound mean in this video, because I'm usually not judgmental and I'm not biased in my videos. But I feel like, she deserves every single thing that's coming to her, because she was not, I don't feel she was a dumb person or someone that was naive and didn't really know all the facts behind the case. And I feel like she was aware that there was a possibility that these young men were innocent, but she still, on top of all of that, decided to keep going forward with this case, which is a ridiculous case. Now, the question, for me, what was that lady doing? I know that may sound stupid, or like, why are you asking? What was that jogger doing out there in the middle of the night, in the early morning hours, whenever this happened? It was late at night. It was like dark outside. Why would you be jogging in Central Park at that time if you're a female? I mean, not that females can't do that, but I mean, for the most part now, with society and the world that we live in, crime is at its highest. And in New York itself, we've had a lot of cases where there has been joggers and women that have been abducted or raped or sexually assaulted or even killed. And it's sad, that someone was out there at that time and she was violated. And I saw the interview of that lady, of the jogger, and not once that I am aware of has she apologized to these gentlemen and taken any kind of ownership that, and like I said, I have not seen the Netflix series. I don't know too much of the case, only what I saw through the interview of these gentlemen. And so it's horrible. I feel like there's a lot of anger behind these men at the justice system, and they'll never look at the justice system as the same. In fact, one of these gentlemen actually did say that, when you're growing up, you look to the police for protection. You look at them as the men in blue, or in uniform, and you look to them as for protection and for security, and feeling safe. And they'll never be able to look at the police system the same. And I feel like a lot of them have bad health as well. Well, the one on the left-hand side of this photograph has some bad health issues that I do pick up on. And some of them, they are never, like I said, they're just never going to be the same. And it's very heartbreaking to know that justice was not served. I feel like a lot of those people, that they should go back, and whoever is living from that who were responsible in prosecuting these men unjustly should be held accountable in a court of law themselves. That's just my opinion. This is not a psychic insight of what I'm giving right now, but I do feel like they should be held accountable because, they ruined these young men and their lives forever. This is something they're never going to get back. Now I'm going to flip the tables around, and I'm going to say something that may not agree with everybody very well. But had this been a case of all of these young men being white, would they have been treated the same? No. In fact, there was one guy who, I can't remember the case, but he ended up raping a female. It was, I believe, at a university, and he only got 6 months of jail. 6 months. And these men got years. And they were young teenagers. But, like I said, question is now, how many more cases did Linda Fairstein prosecute and was over the prosecution and were unjustly, they were all unjustly, prejudiced. And there were cases that were where people that are innocent were falsely accused, wrongly accused of crimes they didn't commit. So I do suspect that what I get from a psychic insight is that her life is about to take a whirlwind, even more so than what it is now. There's a lot of people that have their eye on her, and they're out for blood, and I would be afraid to be her because of the fact that I feel like there are people that are threatening her. Like, I feel like there are death threats, and that's what I get from a psychic insight. And I see that this is going to affect her whole life, her children, her family, family members. All of them run danger because there's a lot of hate being directed towards her and her family for the things that she did, which is not fair to them because they didn't have anything to do with this. But for her, she will be held accountable. And I feel like there's going to be a lot more of things that are going to be coming to the light. And the question, I think a lot of people also that are tuning into this would be able to see and agree that black men are the most in society, are the ones that are always falsely accused or accused of crimes they didn't commit. Because when you are a black man or a black woman, society is just that way. It's corrupt. And when it comes to the legal system, they're always going to hold a black person accountable. And it shouldn't be that way. That's disgusting. It's wrong and it's disgusting. And we need to change that as a society and as a whole. But like I said, if this would have been a group of white men, white young boys, because they were boys at the time, they were not men, they were boys, teenagers, they would have not have faced the same penalties as these guys that are innocent did. And like I said, with Linda Fairstein, I see a lot of bad things, happening, and I'm really worried that it's gonna get worse. There's just a lot of things that are changing, and a lot of this is about like her money and her finances. I'm pretty sure she's set up already for the rest of her life, but financially speaking. But I feel like, there are going to be some hits from this. Wherever she would end up working or volunteering, she's going to have scrutiny on her. And I don't think society at the point that we're living in right now, with the way that consciousness is so elevated, that people are going to just turn a blind eye towards all of this and just say, oh, give her a pat on the back. She made a mistake. We all make mistakes. No. Because I feel like we are living in a time right now where people are no longer playing a blind eye to what other people do when it's on this global scale and this magnitude. We are no longer tolerating injustice, and so the people will rise up against it. And there's a lot of things that are hidden with her, skeletons as well, that are coming up from spirit about, things that went on with people that she used to work with. I'm alluding to the fact that there may have been some abuse that she would have experienced as well from male colleagues, whether this was in the form of sexual harassment or being threatened. So I'm not defending her, but I do feel like there is much more to the story that has not been revealed and that Linda Fairstein is fully aware of as well, because behind all of this, I see that there is a strong, powerful male that was sitting behind all of this. I don't know if this would have been somebody in the judicial system above her, or it would have been like a mayor or the city governor, the governor of the state at the time. But there was definitely someone very powerful and rich that had the final say, because even though she got the go ahead to prosecute them, I feel like there was definitely somebody above her giving orders for this to kind of take place, which again, I feel like a lot of this was bought. People were bought. And at the time, this was all to make her look good. And that's what I get. That's what it boils down to. Boosting her, her precedence, or her, her image as a prosecutor, as a top prosecutor. But I don't feel like she's in a good place right now. And I don't feel like, that she's going to be in a good place for a long time. And yes, people may go on to the next drama, but somewhere or somehow, for her, people are always going to hold her accountable and remember her. So she's basically ruined her name. That's like what I say and what I think about is, people will do anything to kind of have their 5 or 10 minutes of fame. And is it really worth it at the end of the day? Is it really worth ruining your career? Because anything that we dish out, karmically speaking, this is karmic justice for all these gentlemen. This is the boomerang. This is what has come back to her. And now it's haunting her. And it's a very dark place to be in for a female. And to be an older female at her age, to having to deal with a lot of the stress. There's a lot of things that can happen to her health her health could deteriorate from all of this. And I know a lot of people would be saying, well, what if it does? We don't care. But I have compassion and I have humanity, I have empathy for a lot of people. But I do feel like, whatever is coming it's karmic in nature. And, she does deserve a lot of this that's happening right now. And not just her. I'm not just pointing the finger at her, but all the other police officers that were responsible for or contributed to this case to prosecute these men, including the police chief at the time and whoever tried. I don't know who the judge was that tried this case. And they need to go back and they really need to be held accountable. And that's something with the statute of limitations when we were talking about legal issues, that, there are certain statute of limitations that is basically a time period when people can sue other people, or a case is no longer considered as being valid or something that you can bring up to the court or legal system. So there's a lot of things that are coming out. These men there's going to be a movie. I foresee that there is going to be a movie, apart from what is on Netflix. There's definitely going to be a movie. I also feel like there are going to be some book deals for these gentlemen. I don't know if they've written a book already, but I see book deals around them, and I see a lot of more the African American community and just white people and everybody is going to embrace these men for what they went through, and it's a turning point in society. Every single day, every single hour in the entire world, specifically in the USA legal system, there are a lot of these cases that are padded. There are a lot of these people that are innocent, black men and black women, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican or Hispanic, men and women who are wrongly accused. And it's just something that we cannot play a blind eye to anymore. white people do have supremacy and privilege. They're very privileged. So it's like they're not treated the same as a Latino or an African American. And that is just the way it is. And it's everywhere. And I'm not going to, shut up and just kind of dance around it. It's the truth. It's the truth. Like, you don't see, for a lot of these beauty companies and these models, you don't see a lot of African American or Latino stars. When you look at superstars and singers, you don't see a lot of Hispanic or Latinas being superstars, in the music industry. Selena Gomez is the exception. And, but after Selena Gomez, who else can you name? How many? There's more white women and men that are celebrities in the entertainment industry or who hold positions of high rank in corporations and other places. And it's just something that we cannot play a blind eye to. Us African Americans and Latinos are victimized every day, and we are just not given the same rights as other people that are white. And it's got to change. And I feel like this is a big turning point, a big leaf in history with this case, that even though it's been years ago when this occurred, but being that it's so relevant, and Netflix, the producer of that show that written it, they're geniuses. And I feel like this is going to help to kind of look at the legal system now, because there's a lot of eyes now on the legal system. And just think about in history, from like between the 1970s and 1990s, how many innocent people were possibly accused of crimes they never committed, and they have served time in prison and lost a lot of their lives, and maybe even died in prison, and they were innocent. And only God knows, the truth behind all of that, and the people who falsely accused them just because they are prejudiced or racist. It's got to change, and we as a people as a whole need to change that. So my heart goes out to all of these handsome men and courageous and brave men that were victimized, and that the justice system failed them. I am so sorry to each and every one of them and their families and their friends. I'm so sorry that the legal system failed you, and I just wish nothing but blessings upon them and their families going forward, and that they can find some peace in their hearts and souls to forgive these people that falsely and wrongly accuse them. Above all, I think, this is something that we just need to, be more mindful of, to not accuse someone until we know the facts, until innocent until proven guilty. We're so quick as a society right now to jump, and I think that's even existent back then, to jump on a case and say that something is the way it is, and it's not. So again, we have to keep an open mind. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to share it if you want to onto other Facebook groups or etc. And blessings and love and light. Have an amazing weekend wherever you are in the world.